Hey guys, Mark Ferrasci with a little difference in our setting. Protect Dog Training and Loki, and you can hear him in the background. He's going off, he's getting ready to eat. He knows it's food time. I've got a bowl of food for him. I'm going to bring him over and feed him right behind me. And anytime we're doing something, we know what behaviors we want to attain, so we start playing with things. And one of the things is to teach the dog to bark on command. And I'll start playing with this with him very young. And I'll give him his cue word, he won't understand what it means, and I'll kind of hit my voice tone and I'll talk him into barking. As soon as he barks, he'll get a marker word. So all these markers come into play, and we'll be talking more about that as we go along. What I wanted to talk about first was what I did this weekend. I was telling you earlier on my other video that we ended up getting heavy into the YouTube and getting into a lot of watching videos, and I was watching a lot of different trainers, and one of the things I watched was Dog Decoded, okay? And one of the best shows as far as accenting and slanting, what I've known for years. We'll go over that in a second. Let me shut him up by feeding him. We'll go through the feeding cycle. Let me get off the screen. I'll be right back with him and a bowl of food, and we'll see what we can do to shut him up. Good boy, Loki. You're interrupting my video here, buddy. Come on, let's go. Good boy, good. All right, Loki, come on. You ready? Come on, let's go. Are you ready? Good. Good boy. Okay. How's he? Nope. Good. Yes. Good boy. Good. Are you ready? Huh? All right, come on. Up. Good boy. Up. Good. There you go. And I'll let him eat behind us. Good boy. I won't get a bark out of him right now. But in a general sense, back to my little conversation about Dogs Decoded. It was a hell of a good show, and if you're into this sort of thing, you're going to enjoy it a lot. And there was a lot of really good scientific little points they put on things that I've been aware of for years. And one of the first things I picked up as a kid as I was getting imprinted with my dogs, I didn't have anybody to tell me. I only had, I think one book was Keeler was the big item back then, Keeler's Guard Dog Training book, and he did a lot of what they call escape or avoidance training, and it's very standard even to today. But at the same time, this is a man that really put it into print, and this is what we had access to in our knowledge base back then, so everybody was doing it. Now we have the internet, and there's a bunch of different methods of training dogs, and my whole thing when I started doing this was to try to gain as much knowledge as I could from as many different spots and not get concrete on any one thing, because there's a bunch of things out there and there's always little diamonds in the rough. There's something that I can use from this, there's something I can use from that, and that was really important to me. So the other thing that I did was when I went out, again, I didn't have anybody to tell me that I couldn't do something. So I went out and I experienced it and I felt, okay? I was in tune with that animal, and I really got off on, again, vocabulary. How many words can a dog get to know? I had a dog that had about 250 words, and she would roll over, crawl, limp, hand signals, and I was really heavy into using my voice tone to get her to do things. I was just really in tune with that animal because I didn't have anybody else to tell me, so that instinct took over. And my feeling is that in our world, in our society, we have a society that basically praises and lauds anything that has to do with academia, okay? So math, being a doctor, being a lawyer, all these things are praised because those all mean money, okay? It means your child's going to go out and make a lot of money, and that's a good thing. So we push him towards these things. We do not reward and we do not give for anything that has to do with the arts, okay? That basically is a person, Loki, come on. You're not going to eat, and you're going to come off of there. There you go. Good boy. Good. So basically, we do not in our society praise the arts, because the arts, usually being a musician, is a crapshoot. You might make it and you might starve to death. I know, I see you. Silly boy. You don't like me talking without paying attention to you, huh? So in a nutshell, I really feel that these are the things that are intuitively in us. They're in our genealogy. They're in our mental makeup, okay? This emotional side of us that we live in, okay? That's back there. When we dream at night, we have this. When you have a child that is experiencing this, they're going through this and they're evolving into an adult, and they have this emotional plane that they can really take off and go with if it's rewarded, okay? And it's something that the parents and the society tells them this is good. And when that happens, that imprint and what you're going to bring out is amazing. You ever seen a child that's been raised around people that are into music? They play music for them when they're in the womb, and they do all these things that foster and create this instinct and this emotional side of them that allows them to be a genius a lot of times. Some of these kids grow up and they can play like you wouldn't believe. It's because when they were young and nobody told them they couldn't, and they had that emotional side of youth, that was that imprint that brought it out. Well, that's what happened with me, with my dogs. Nobody told me I couldn't do this. I went out and I loved it and I felt it. My instinct was honed. And so that being the case, that's why I'm better than most as a dog trainer. I'm not the world's best. People don't hardly even know me. But I can do a lot of things with the dog. I always like to say I can make him stand on his head. Loki, you're going to get in trouble. He's off camera over here. He's chewing on things. I'm going to put him off of here and he can go run around. Hopefully he won't knock over my camera, or I'm going to put him away and he'll start barking. But he didn't eat all his food. Come here, Loki. You want to eat? Come on. Talk him into going back into this. Good boy. He hears me chattering, so that voice tone and my behavior is allowing him to get into trouble and take off and do things. Just like your child would if you were busy and you were doing things. They would take off and it would get real quiet, and that third eye would come in and you'd have to correct them for it. We've talked about some of these subjects in the past here. So bottom line is we have a higher ability to communicate with our animals that we don't use, okay? And then here we go with AKC and show ring and all the stuff that we do that's structured. Man is going to structure this. He's going to set a rule book. He's going to have criteria based on what this sport is supposed to be doing, okay? And with that comes the stunting of our relationship. And I'd love to see people get more into what I get into, which is a boy and his dog. You know what that means? The kid that goes out there and does some amazing things, and the dog's jumping up on walls and doing all kinds, that was me, okay? Crawling, limping, rolling over, as much creativity as I could put into my animal, and that relationship was the most important thing to me without even me realizing it. That's what I grew to love, and that's most dog trainers. They have that and they feel it, and that's what they get into dog training for, because this is the part that they love the most. But with it comes a lot of structure in society that, as far as I'm concerned, really takes the joy and the enjoyment out of that relationship. So when I work with a customer, I try to bring out that more and more all the time. So dogs and man are incredibly in tune with one another, and that's one of the quotes that came out of that show. And they are. They're very much in tune. The dog genetically, with what some of the stuff they were talking about, what they were doing, tracking of the eye and some other things, and they were showing how the dog basically watches your emotional plane and can pick up on it just to a minute. He knows when you're happy, he knows when you're sad. And their ability to do that is amazing. I know, Loki, I know you're going to be a pain in the butt. I'm going to try to put you away, but you're going to bark all the time. So that being the case, I like to try to bring that out of my customers, and I call that the gut feeling of dog training. So when I'm working with you, I'm going to teach you the structure. I'm going to teach you to do right-hand turns, left-hand turns, all the structure that we need to be able to mechanically manipulate this dog into doing the behaviors that we have. But then I'm going to try to, as you get better at that, and you don't have to think about that anymore, just like playing that guitar. After a while, you don't even have to think about where your fingers go when you change those chords, okay? And then we start to teach you have feeling with your playing, and that's what it's all about. So I get into that where I start trying to teach the customer what I call that gut feeling of dog training, to be able to feel it on that plane that instinctively is within you. I think everybody has it in them. It's just that it needs to be brought up. It needs to be fostered so that you learn how to play with feeling, okay? To train with feeling. So we're going to get into that more as we go along with this animal. And I'm hoping to show you him evolve, where you're starting to see this relationship that I have with my dog, all based on voice tone, pattern, and a communication with the animal that I've grown over the years doing this for so many years. Their ability to pick up on body language and voice tone is an amazing thing, and watch you and know when you're happy, when you're sad, and then you need to learn how to telegraph your emotions in the right way so that you don't get so emotional that you're overbearing with your voice tone and you lose context of what you're working on and what you're trying to create with the behaviors. I like to look at that as an instrument that you learn to play, okay? Your voice tone. All right, and when I say good dog and I say good, I get squirrely, I get happy, I get sad. The dog picks up on all this, and I like to get to the point where I play it like an instrument and use it as a tool in my training. And it's important as far as I'm concerned. After thousands of years living with us, dogs are more in tune with us like no other animal. And it's very, very true. It's been bred into them with the different genetics that we have and different breeds that we have available, and each one of them has something they've been bred to do. So it's an amazing thing. We'll get more into that subject as we go along. I'd like to see him grow through that and be able to point it out to you. See what I'm talking about? See what I'm talking about? It's a lot of fun. So I'm going to let him finish his meal here. That's some of the stuff that we're going to get into. Oh, I know what I want to talk about. A couple subjects that came up. One of them was somebody was talking to me about doing workouts with his dog, and he was worried about the dog's bones being soft and all that. Just remember, everything's about balance, all right? If you do anything to extreme, it's not good for you. Even if something is supposed to be good for you, if you do it too much, you do it extreme, it's not going to be good for you, okay? So with a young dog, we have to be aware and cognizant and aware of his soft bones. So if you went jogging 3, 4, 5 days a week and ended up out there jogging with your animal on the hard pavement, he would end up getting bone spurs, or he would have physical problems based on this pounding, okay? So we don't want to do too much of it. As an example of what I do when I have my 3-tier program that I'm just talking about, we do agility, we do obedience, and we do a lot of socialization, environmental, that we use to balance the dog and to grow up in that respect so that he's totally stable. That's what we're up to. So on that 3-prong attack, I usually do what I call a loose workout, which means it's a loose training day is what I call it. And it boils down to that my conscious, my accent, my awareness, and what I'm pushing on those days is more about physical, okay? So right now, I just look at it as a puppy, and the puppy's so young that he needs to grow some bone and some muscle, okay? So I'll do these little light agility like I already showed you on this bench and everything, where he's kind of doing a doggy push-up, up and down, and this drop-off is not enough that's going to hurt him. And I only do it 2 times a week, and I'm very conscious and aware of how much am I doing to that dog to work out his muscles and everything, and I just keep trying to stretch it. And I look at it as the dog that I try to build, I look at it as an Olympic athlete. That's my goal, is to make him as much of an Olympic athlete as I can, to have him excel in what he's going to end up being later on in life. And for me, that means he's either going to be a working dog on the street, or he's going to be an executive protection dog that I sell to somebody that needs their home and their family protected and has those attributes that they're looking for, okay? So that's what we're working towards, and we put a whole program together to produce that product, all right? The other comment that came up, it came up in one of my video threads. I've got a couple people that are basically, they make comments and they think they're, I don't know what their point of view is, but usually it's anti, okay? Somebody that doesn't like protection, and why don't you tell people this, and he's negative, okay? Well, first off, what qualifications does he have to have those opinions? Who is he? All these things are usually anonymous buttheads, to be honest with you, that I wouldn't even know who they are, and they don't give me any background or bona fides on who they are. As far as I'm concerned, when I'm trying to work with you and you're getting to see my face, you know who I am. I'm not playing things in anonymous, and I'm telling you exactly who I am and trying to get you to learn and grow with who I am as an individual, as a trainer, so that you can respect and trust the knowledge that I give you, okay? So these people kind of irritate me because they're anti, and so I had it was a girl, I think she's a girl, who knows, the name could be totally fake, she's got some spoof picture up, and she started honing in on the fact that I've mentioned the ears a couple times, and she's going, well, what does that matter? And she's coming out to me, so I gave her a reply, and I'll go ahead and give it to you now on video so you get it. It boils down to, in my world, I am trying to produce a product that I am going to sell. Okay? That being the case, I want the best product that I can possibly produce for my customers, because that's what I do. And that's the pride that I take in my product, okay? What I produce, what I create out of this animal is a multifaceted thing that I need to do. First, I need genetics. I need the breed type. I either need Adobe, Rottie, Shepherd. I need something that's going to be able to qualify for that job in the end, okay? And then I need the skill to be able to build this animal with him having his God-given genetics. I need the skill to be able to shape, form, and mold that. Right? And then the biggest thing that I was trying to explain to this person was that the reason that I care about the ears and I care about that dog's presence, I like a dog that is the old standard of having ears cropped on Adobe, as an example, or the Beauceron. And over in Europe now, they've got this PC stuff going on so much that everybody's politically correct, and they think that the dog should be a pet and his ears should be allowed to stay floppy. I don't agree with that, because I need presence. I need presence to be able to have the dog be able to be a deterrent factor. When I work with my customers, I teach them how to work that animal, and we set up routine and environment so that dog has a presence around their environment, their home, their family, they go to work, whatever they may be. That dog has to emote a certain amount of presence, of confidence, of obedience, stability, and the ability to do his job to take somebody down, okay? The goal is, though, we want a deterrent factor. We want a dog that has all that presence so that he can deter that from ever happening. We really want the dog to never have to do his job. But in the same respect, if the dog has to, we want to know that this dog is going to be able to follow through and take the man down. So we're working the animal to a point where we're trying everything in our power to try to prepare for that one day that dog may have to do his job. I'm not a law enforcement officer. My customers aren't. They're not going to be taking that dog on the street for the most part. Well, sometimes a lot of my dogs do go to the law enforcement. But in a general sense, that's called the deterrent factor, because his emotional, physical presence will deter something from ever happening, okay? How many times you hear the law enforcement officer goes out, he loves his canine, because a lot of times they go out there and the dog's presence alone stops something from even escalating to a point where the officer has to get to that level of dealing with that person. They just give up, right? Because they don't want to take on that dog. All right, that's presence, okay? Presence of the officer and what he stands for with his deterrent factor, and also the dog, all right? So when I produce a product like this, I need that to be the case. I don't want to sell a dog that has floppy ears and looks like an overgrown love bug, okay? Because if that's the case, then I haven't fulfilled with my job in giving that customer what they're buying from me, okay? Which is presence and physical presence. So obviously my point of view is that I want my dog's ears standing, I want them looking good. And then they came back and said, oh yeah, so you're going to take the dog to the pound. I have never surrendered an animal to the pound, ever in my life, okay? I'll find him a good home, or I'll keep him myself, and I'll accept the fact that he's got floppy ears. You see what I'm saying? So it really just irritates me, these people coming up and stirring the pot and wanting to come after you and basically demonize you. It's the same thing that the purely positive group does. They come after all the different trainers that are balanced trainers, and they demonize them. They make them think that they're a bad trainer because they don't agree with their purely positive world they live in, okay? I can give my dog treats, I can do that, I do it all the time. I've got food, I've got motivators, every motivator I can possibly think of, okay? But I believe that there's times that you need to give an aversive. I did it with Loki here. He's tearing up my note. You got my notes and you got them all thrown up, you little turd. So that being the case, the politically correct crowd comes at this and they've got the science of dog training, and they try to make themselves look like they're so much better than the other balance trainers that are out there. And I tend to disagree, because what they've done is they've created such a stigma of spare the rod, don't spank the child, that you end up with dogs that are just totally a mess and the customers can't deal with them. They end up surrendering to the pounds, and they end up getting put down. And it's very sad. There's thousands of dogs going into, and there's a huge industry now of rescue. Why? Because the person didn't get taught how to deal with that dog in the beginning the right way, where the dog just spun out to a point where it becomes a neurotic mess, and now you've got a liability with a reactivity or all kinds of different problems with the animal, and now he gets surrendered to the pound. Okay, it's a lot worse now than it was back in the 70s and 80s because of this prevailing aspect of purely positive dog trainers that are out there that aren't teaching their customers that there's times when you need to use an aversive and you need to teach the dog respect in that regard. So it is what it is. We'll go more into this subject as we go along. I'm getting a little long-winded, so I'll go ahead and cut off now, but have your good Memorial Day weekend, and look for more coming from Loki as he matures. He's starting to get more food drive all the time, and we're building that. You'll start to see some of this stuff. A lot of this stuff I need to have somebody filming me so they can actually follow me around through my agility course and get a good idea of how I'm communicating with the animal with my voice tone, my body language, how I'm running into this stuff to build the dog. But you're going to see more as we go along. So I'll talk to you later. I thank you very much for, again, as usual, listening to my long-winded chatter, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.